Welcome to another episode of Otaku Podcast with your boys, Senpai Zane, and my fantastic co-host, Mr. Susu Day. How you doing?
Pretty well, mate. Pretty well. It's
Yeah,
been a week so far.
it has indeed. And I've just realised my blinds, even though they're closed, are still piercing through on my face. Can you see that?
I feel like winter is better for recording a video podcast. No, ring lights do better job. Like, there's no
Oh my!
glare. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, look at this guy behind me. Like, look at that.
That Leto, the sun god, needs to go away.
Appalling.
That was
Bring back the moon.
That was a deep cut. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We like to talk about anime, manga, and just go on a general exploration. See how I struggle with that word there. Of everything in the genre. Today we have a fantastic conversation piece around the ye old question: is Star Wars a sci-fi anime?
Very interesting indeed, and not without its share of points to go into.
So, if we were to compare to other sci-fi animes, there is a plethora to choose from. What would you say are the standout points that may lead to the fact that this is actually a sci-fi anime?
I think character, absolutely one of them, and that's not focusing on a single character, but I feel like any main character that is framed in the Star Wars series, maybe in the more mainstream, I'd say that maybe in some of the graphic novels and wider universe that isn't as commonly known by everyone. I think that might lean more to more comfortably towards a lot of Western superhero stuff or like darker tones. But I mean, characters like Luke, characters like Anakin, they fall quite comfortably into all of the tropes that you see in shonen stories.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to say, I got a list of anime tropes. Shall we roll this list and see how many
roll the
ticks?
list. Let's do it. Let's play bingo.
So, starting off with non-existent / absent / dead parents.
What? I mean, see, that one is a very interesting one. And it plays in really well because with characters like Anakin, obviously he had a parent died. That's a very like stereotypical trope.
Yes.
And then with Luke, you think he's got no parents, he's living with relatives, and then you find out that the primary antagonist, or one of the primary antagonists, is actually the blood relation that they've been searching for all this time.
The absent parent.
Yes. So, absolutely, like that's ticked right there. I imagine that. I mean, I'm thinking about like in Rebels as well. Was it Not Caden? Is it Caden?
The one that trains Ezra.
Ezra. There we go. Ezra.
Oh.
Ezra's the same. Like Rey is the same. Except in Rey's instance, she obviously finds out that she is related to the big bad in the same way, which is obviously another trope. So
tick against the parent box, we're saying.
That's a big old tick right there.
That is a big old tick. Another trope, which I think is hilarious, ridiculous power scaling.
Absolutely, and you see that. See, the way that I like to look at it is like you compare it to things like Bleach and Naruto. and stuff, where they scale in the same sort of way as in Star Wars with the Force, whereas you have a group of people, and there are lots of them who can
Yeah.
use, like especially in the prequels and stuff, obviously, that can use this generic power. It's like
Mhm.
with Bleach, you've got the Zanpakuto. With Naruto, you've got chakra and ninjutsu and
Yeah.
whatnot. But then you've got groups of people who are dramatically stronger with it, like they're gifted in it, and you see that, and they're the characters that it all focuses on. Obviously,
Mm.
Luke, especially, he starts off very weak,
Yeah.
but he learns to use his power and ends up becoming one of the strongest. Whereas Anakin is
Mhm.
just strong off the bat without knowing it. Like he obviously is so in tune with the Force
Yeah.
that he's like a top tier pod racer. Like, it's something that humans can't do, but he can do it.
As
And
a
then
child.
and then when he starts actually being trained to use that power, to tap into that power,
Mhm.
he's just good. He's like a Sasuke kind of like character. Like he just excels at every single thing he does except social interactions.
Yes. 100%. The scaling's always weird as well because especially when you look back not necessarily at prequels, but like you say, the extended stuff like Clone Wars. Would I say Clone Wars? Either way, we get introduced to the rankings like Master and obviously Apprentice and such. But there's no sort of real way to understand, well, what separates a Master to a Jedi Knight
Yeah,
if a
there's no
Jedi
real way
Knight's
to
just
quantify it.
yeah, really strong and stuff.
I think also
So,
tying into like the power scaling, and it
mm,
might actually be on the list, is that something that also happens in anime manga is that the villain or the evil will
hmm
often have access to a whole tool set of powers that the good guys do not have access to, or if they don't,
mm,
explicitly shown through the story that but Darkseid has more power, like intrinsically, because of like its very essence. Like
yeah,
it's like the dark side is also like focused around emotions of rage and stuff, and it can get stronger as a result and
yeah.
stuff. And that I think that's also ties into that with the power scaling, is that the bad guys are often, at least in the first instance, shown as being ridiculously much more powerful than the good
hmm
guys are.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that regard. Even with their equipment, like I think more like the my mind's drawn a blank now. The Inquisitors with their dual lightsabers that can
Spin.
rotate
Yeah.
and spin. Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like with the good, quite often in stories like these, the good guys are, they're kind of like sticklers for tradition, and as a
Mm,
result, they the weapons that they use don't vary as much. You might find
hmm
some variation with the main character and how they use their weapon, but then you've got like every single antagonist you come across, even if they're using the same martial art, they're using the same powers, they will have something dramatically different. Like you think about like Kylo's like bloody like broadsword saber. You've
Yeah.
got even that saber that Rey sees herself wielding in that like vision she has, the
Yeah.
one that like kind of flicks out into a dual
Yeah. Yeah.
saber stuff.
Yeah. It's yeah, definitely interesting. Onto the next trope. Uh, actually, I can't really think of this, but unexpected training.
Unexpected training.
hmm
Unexpected training. I would possibly say, and this is this is an obscure reference if you've only dipped your fingers into, or dipped your toes even into Clone Wars
hmm
a little bit. Um, but do you recall where Anakin comes into contact with the Force wielders?
Yes.
And there's the son, there's the daughter, and there's the father.
hmm
I would I would argue that arc was very much like a like unknowing training of Anakin. Like he learned. to become much more in tune, but he didn't go there for training. He just kind of ended up being trained while being there through what happened.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, and
And
just exploring their knowledge of the Force as well into a more mystic arts than what they had previously, I guess.
yeah, I'd also say to a smaller degree as well, in Star Wars Rebels as well. I'd say that because the main character, he didn't go into it with the intention of becoming like a Jedi. He was a thief, and he kind of stole from the wrong person. That person turned out to be one of the few remaining like surviving Jedi.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the training he does get
Mhm.
is unintentional because it's like they're trying to lay low, aren't they? They're not trying to draw attention to themselves. So whenever he does anything
Yeah.
Force related, it's kind of like on the fly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But there's no big training montage with a sensei, and then discovering new arts. Because I guess there could be an argument about Luke, but with Yoda and stuff, but from the get go, I think it's always been kind of foreshadowed that he would be going off to train because as Obi
his path was very laid out before him. Once
yeah.
he met Ben
Mm.
and he learned of the Jedi, or he learned more of the Jedi, and he learned that his father was one. Obviously, Obi-Wan was training him,
Mm-hmm.
like in his wee way, and then he then was told by his ghost to go to Dagobah
Yeah.
and stuff. Like even if Luke didn't know it,
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan knew that he was going there and he would get training for being there. So I think that I think that you're right. I think that is it's a difficult one, that one,
Mm.
because Luke didn't know it, but everyone else knew it. So
Another one we've got here is weak female characters. Um, Now this one, again, I don't. There's an argument that could be said on either side because without characters like Ahsoka, there probably wouldn't be. Again, Leia is a strong character, um, and again, like I said, Ahsoka, Padme. I feel like
she
she's
was
strong
strong
in.
in different ways.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I think whenever a female character is introduced into Star Wars, they're typically either strong mentally or strong
Mm.
physically, or a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's like, I think that in recent years, and I think that this actually is a great way that it kind of like ties in with anime tropes as well, is that it's very rare. At least I think that you actually go into anime or a manga and the female characters are inherently like helpless. I feel
Mm.
like in a lot of ways a lot of them are always very capable. It's just that by comparison to the main character,
Yeah.
who is exceptional,
Yeah.
is just kind of like they're there to highlight how much stronger or how much more special the main character is by being good at what they do. Like like let's say that like they're the best in their group at what they
Mm.
do, and then this new character comes along and he is like just exponentially much better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And so he's like you have the cream of the crop, and then he's like, okay, this is the chosen one, this one here, like, and this is why.
Yeah.
Even if they won't admit it, that's
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that in more recent anime and manga as well, like I think of My Hero, I think of Jujutsu Kaisen especially.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
there are strong female characters, but in their own way, to oppose to having a demon locked inside them. You know, because that's being strong in a totally different category.
Yeah, it feels like the way that they're written is they're written as having earned their power, like it's not
Mm,
been just given to them.
yeah.
Whereas, like, quite more often than none, the male protagonists are they were regular and then the power's just like been given to them, or they've stumbled upon something or awakened something they didn't know they had, whereas everyone else around them had to work really hard to get that strong.
Yeah, exactly.
And that obviously ties quite nicely into Anakin. Like the difference
Hmm.
between Anakin and Luke is Luke had to work really hard to get to where he was in episode 6,
Hmm.
whereas Anakin was just good. Like he
Yeah,
was excelling at a point which was scaring the council.
yeah. And made him probably a little bit hard to handle. Like I think back to Attack Clones?
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones, where he's just like reckless, like jumping
Yeah,
out of
he's
like speeders
arrogant,
and stuff.
isn't he? He
Yeah.
believes he's the strongest, and as a result, and that's at the very start of episode 3 as well. Like
Hmm.
he's been told that he's the chosen one. He's strong enough to believe it,
Hmm.
and as a result, when he's confronted about it, he's like, "Well, I'm the strongest. I can do this. I am the chosen one. Why won't you listen to me?" It's like kind of so he's like, and I think that was obviously part of his fall, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's another thing. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Here's another trope: emotional flashbacks before a big moment. Now, the closest one I could kind of pull to is those sort of forced visions. So, as you mentioned, Rey confronting like the evil part of herself. Luke, when he goes through the woods and he sees Vader, and then he strikes it down, and then it's his own face in the mask.
yeah.
I wouldn't say they're flashbacks, but
No, I completely get what you're saying with regards to that. And it's interesting because you obviously mentioned Rey as well. I think that of all of the protagonists,
mm-hmm.
this has been done the most with Rey because she's often having flashbacks of being abandoned and the
Yeah,
last things that she saw of her parents. You see, because a lot of what makes her her character is the fact that she doesn't know who she is and where she fits in.
yeah,
And in order to tell her story, you need to have these flashbacks
yeah,
to show that it is something that the reason why she's so cut up about it is because she does have memories. She just the memories aren't enough to kind of
yeah,
fill in the blanks.
yeah, definitely. I don't think there's, from memory, I can't think of anyone else that has like big flashbacks. Um,
Anakin occasionally has flashbacks of his mother,
hmm,
but it's nothing like earth shattering. Like he has the occasional like clip of her. I think obviously it wasn't so much a flashback, but obviously in episode 3 he obviously finds his mother.
yeah.
And was that episode 2? That was episode
The
2.
episode 2, yeah, because he has the nightmares.
Yeah, he's having the nightmares constantly, and you could say that those to some degree are kind of they fall into the kind of same vein as flashbacks,
Hmm.
at least for a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, because it then propels the big event that we're leading to. So, like you say, him fighting all those Tusken Raiders, the
Yeah,
event of the event in my example with Luke. Obviously, that leads to the big fight between him and Vader. It's, I guess, it's foreshadowing to opposed
yeah,
to an emotional flashback of bits and pieces. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's a similar.
yeah. It has you have to you've got kind of got to twist the trope a little bit to get to that,
Hmm,
but it is generally what that is.
yeah. Another one is monologues for
Bad guys.
exposition.
Um, yeah, typically Palpatine.
Yes.
Palpatine's big on the monologue. I think he does it in every movie. in every trilogy, there's a Palpatine like monologue.
Hmm.
Typically, any high-ranking officer
Yes.
uh, will have a monologue. I think back to the original trilogy,
Mm.
4, 5, and 6. There's always some like high-ranking officer who thinks they're better than Vader, and when Vader's not around, and they've got like the good guys cornered, they'll be like monologuing their plans, like we have this fully armed Death Star and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think I got to stop saying I think because I know. One example that jumped to mind was, and now my mind's gone a blank. Is there was Dooku, Dooku,
Yep, Dooku.
Dooku,
Loved a
constantly
monologue.
explaining stuff to Obi-Wan, um, especially in episode 2. That one came to mind straight away.
I'm actually thinking of the one in episode 3 where Obi-Wan's on the ground, he's unconscious, and he's monologuing to Anakin while
Oh.
Palpatine's or the Chancellor's all tied up.
Yeah, and just kind of tell him that his rage will get the better of him and such. So yeah, that is really cool. Almost there. We got 2 more tropes. The second to last is villain doesn't capitalize.
I think yes, because while there is some element of it
Mm-hmm.
to characters like Vader and Kylo,
Mm-hmm.
they, for the most part, they seem to be more focused on their own shit rather
Yeah.
than what the bigger picture is. Like they
Yeah.
do fall into that, and they care about, and to some degree they obviously support the Empire and what it needs to do, but to the point where obviously Kylo by the third movie is like this, it's gonna be his empire.
Yeah.
You know, he's like kind of like, I'm strong enough that this is my thing.
Yeah.
And in a mirroring way, Anakin is obviously like that when he first becomes Vader, but
Mm-hmm.
after being Vader for a while, he's then only really focused on kind of himself and hunting down the last of the Jedi that he can find. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd say yeah, I say that the villains don't typically, at least some of the villains don't. There's obviously villains like Dooku and
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine who are absolutely capitalizing on what they're doing.
See, I would probably argue Dooku was probably hesitant in the second film just because he obviously had an olive branch out for Obi-Wan, um, and kind of tried to say we could undercut Palpatine, like we could do it together, sort of, the old cliche. So, and there's that moment as well where he defeats Anakin and knocks out Obi-Wan, and then he just has this big sigh as he puts his like lightsaber away. He's just kind of like, oh, like.
Yeah, I guess you're right actually in that.
And then there's Darth Maul, who was just like pissing about, like trying to get Obi-Wan to fall down a hole for
He's just
ages.
he's just doing his job, isn't he? He's just like, go out there, kill these Jedi and the people they're protecting.
This is very
Make sure
true.
you make sure that you give us the best score that you could possibly deliver. Make sure
Duel
you
of
make sure
Fates.
you take it. Make sure you take it with you. I want to be hearing it all the way through.
Duel of Fates is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Like you can say what you will about any, like I don't care what your favorite trilogy is. I don't care if you acknowledge like the last trilogy. I don't care if
Mm,
you acknowledge the prequels. Say what you will. All of them have fantastic scores
yes.
and stuff. And the scenes that the big like crescendoing like hits go against,
Mm.
always amazing.
Yeah.
So
100%. 100%. The last trope. Now, are you ready for this?
I don't know.
Here we go. Character unlocks secret slash forgotten power just before defeated.
I'd say to some degree, yeah. I'd say to some degree. I mean, I think the one that's like jumping out to me immediately is the fact that um, Kylo and Rey have this like force link, which is something that's not been shown for a long time, and even though it was obviously revealed to be as a result of Palpatine,
Mm-hmm.
it's a known power,
Yeah.
something that like people like Luke knew of stuff,
Mm.
and I feel like to some degree it was an awakening, and in the end, it allowed them to defeat Palpatine.
Yeah, they used it as their trump card, didn't they?
Yeah. Thinking about, I don't think Luke. I think of all the protagonists in the at least in the mainstream media,
Mm-hmm.
Luke was always a very fundamentals kind of Jedi.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't do anything flashy. He
No.
just kind of follows his training, and that's what it is. I think obviously the wildest thing he ever did was when he used his did his force astral projection towards the end of the second
Oh, yeah,
movie
yeah.
to like stand off against Kylo, and then
Yeah.
when he got struck down, he's like, he's like, well, no, I'm actually not here.
Yeah. I'm still back on my deserted
Yeah, but then
planet.
he wasn't. He just away.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting pull actually. And
Mm,
another one that came to my mind is back to Rebels is when Ezra uses the space whales, shall we say?
yes, because he's got a unique connection with the Force, hasn't he?
Where he can communicate with animals and living creatures and such.
Yeah, because he
And
does it. He does it to like not with just with the whales. He does it in like this cave with this like thing that's trying to kill them as well.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think there was like a giant wolf at one stage.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in forever, but
Mm,
but yeah, I think that going to Ezra, like you were saying, it's kind of like he very much like Anakin
mhm.
spends a lot of at least the second half of the story dealing with the idea that dealing with the idea that he might actually be quite gifted with in the dark side
Yeah,
and stuff, and because he has a couple of instances where he like inadvertently uses powers that you would consider Sith like, and
yeah.
then to the point where in I think the final series when he's had his like growth spurt, but he's like he's a much more aggressive character, and he's carrying around a Sith holocron.
Yeah. It's a great character journey because it shows that the path isn't just so nice and linear that he was tempted by the dark side, but with his secret power, shall we say, or unlocks a secret power, the warping with the space whales whilst being trapped by Thrall was just amazing. Like,
Oh, absolutely, it was a
because
fantastic scene.
it's one of those things that's been sprinkled out throughout the entire thing where he can talk to, I think they're called moon cats, the tiny little creatures.
Yeah,
And then it's to the point where a whole herd of space whales kind of
yeah,
jettison.
you can use warp speed without like anything. They can just do it. It's just their
Yeah.
power.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic.
It's great stuff.
Mm. So, I guess
I
the
wouldn't.
only other. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say it's not typically a trope. I don't know. Were you moving on, or were you
No,
talking?
no. No, I was going to. You finish first.
I was gonna say another trope actually,
Yeah.
which was, and this you see a lot in anime and manga, is the idea of the middle ground. In that you have the good side, you have the good guys, you have the bad guys, and the power. They use the same power to different degrees,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the protagonist, or you have a group of protagonists who come together at some point in the story, and they kind of like meet in the middle, and they're using aspects of both, and it's kind of like, and you hear it all the time on the internet. You hear it in a lot, but you never like hear it explicitly said in any like mainstream media, and that's the Grey Jedi.
Yes, I was
It's
just
like
gonna.
the Jedi that treads the line
Yeah,
between.
I was just gonna ask if you could give a example in anime and manga where there is a middle ground.
So let me just think of it just now, because I said this one without having an example in mind. To some degree, some might disagree with this. Alan Walker,
Yeah.
because he's obviously an exorcist, and
Hmm.
spoiler. And am I allowed to do spoilers here?
Yeah,
This is
why
the
not?
Yeah, and obviously he he's possessed by, or he has the spirit of one of the Noah in him.
Hmm.
So he's kind of like, and at the point in the story, in the most recent stories we're at, he's kind of he's an ex still, even though he's left the order that he's been with for all this time. He
Mm.
knows that he knows that there's this other presence in him, which is diametrically opposed to the innocents and exorcists, to the
Yeah.
point where when he uses his exorcist tools, like his Noah half is pained by it, and when he uses his Noah half, his like innocence like reacts to that. But he's now in this place where he's like kind of towing this line. He's just trying to survive at the moment, but
Yeah.
he's making use of everything. He's like making use of the arc. He's making use of like his like of Crown Clown and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, Trying to think of others. To another degree, I'd say characters like
See, I thought of Itachi.
I was just about to say one of the Uchiha. Um, definitely there as well, because they're doing the exact same thing. They're using powers that are considered not good.
Villainous methods.
Yeah, that, and maybe it's not so much like powers all the time, but it's
Mm.
like kind of the ideology of, you don't have to, you got to kind of make your own path and think of it your own way, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. I
So
think I'm sure I saw an article recently that kind of explained that maybe Ahsoka, especially after her appearances in Rebels, is that she's obviously not associated with the Jedi like she first was, and is
yes,
probably on that path of a Grey Jedi to
and
oppose to.
doesn't her lightsaber display that she doesn't have a, she just has a white lightsaber, doesn't she? White
Yeah,
saber.
instead of I think previously it was green and yellow.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, and I think as well, well, not think, but it's all down to her costume designs as well, as in like having, I think in Rebels she was often seen with a grey cloak to opposed to a black one. Or
yes, it's kind of like the idea of a grey Jedi is like very much in your face, in a very, they're hinting at it in the biggest way, but no one
mm,
actually says it. I think I'm not sure whether that's because it's an intentional story device, that they want to keep the Grey Jedi like a very vague concept, because they need the good and they need the evil, and the more
yeah,
people know about it, the more people are like, okay, why can't there be more of these like characters who toe the line? And
hmm,
I think that when you bring in too many of them, it kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like, I think you remove conflict
yeah,
from the setting if everyone is like kind of meeting in this neutral ground.
yeah. No, I totally agree. Um, super. Any other tropes you can think of?
I'm just having a little think and look in the vault right now. The,
It's probably fair to say that there isn't any sort of the oh boy, it's going to turn into that podcast now. There isn't any sort of pseudo. You know
Pseudonyms.
what? You know what I'm trying to say.
I do, but I think my mind has just gone.
So one of those, or any Opa. So we've got none of those tropes, thank goodness, in there. But at the same time, I think looking at our list, I think I'm going to stop saying I think.
You know it in your heart.
I know without a doubt that Star Wars is a sci-fi anime, and George Lucas is just a massive weeb.
Absolutely, and I will get down on my knees every night and pray beside my bed that one day they give us a true form Star Wars anime.
Yes.
Please. I pray to all the gods, every single one.
The only thing I think that's missing from this anime, because we've confirmed it now, it is an anime. The only thing that's missing is mechs.
They exist. They exist somewhere in the Star Wars universe. Absolutely. Without a doubt, there is the technology.
Somewhere on Mustafar or
Somewhere on Mustafar, someone in. I bet it'll be like give. Okay, I'm gonna pitch you this. Give me a story. Starts on Tatooine.
Mm.
One of the what are the wee guys called? Wee guys with the hoods.
We guys with the hoods.
Yellow eyes.
The Java.
Jawa. A Jawa.
Yeah.
Jawa. Lone Jawa. Outcast. Because he's smaller than all the other Jawa. Gets bullied by them. He's wandering, and he falls through the sand into a hidden cave, and he stumbles upon this ancient, like discarded machine. Climbs inside, activates it. But in doing so, it activates all these other ones all across the galaxy. Other people stumble upon them.
Ooh. So you're going for a mech wars, like mech on mech action.
Yeah, you there'll be like one that's like at the center of this like really powerful organization, and they've been hoarding them, but they've never been able to activate them until this one activated, and now they want to gather them all for themselves so they can control the galaxy. And they're not with the Empire; they're their own thing, and even the Empire fears them.
Ooh.
Even the Jedi fear them. Everyone fears them.
That's
and
why they were buried.
Lone Jawa from with a pure heart. He just wants friends. He just wants to make friends. He'll go out and
second episode, they fight a mech being piloted by a Tusken Raider.
I was gonna make the noise, but then I thought maybe not. Maybe that's not a today thing. That sounds more like a in college driving around the local town shouting out the windows with your mates kind of thing. True story.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
Absolutely, you do not.
No. But as we have concluded and even pitched an idea for Dave Filoni to pick up and run with, that one's free, Dave. You can have that on us.
Call us. We'll pray every night to Dark Playlist and
the wise. But even so, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, or if you happen to think, hey, that Luke Skywalker is a Mary Sue and here's why, we want to know. So drop it in the comments down below. Let us know your thoughts. Is Star Wars actually an anime? Because we know it is. And
tell us what you want to talk about. Tell us what you want to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Either way, we want to hear from you. So drop a comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and we will no doubt catch you on the next Otaku podcast. Don't forget to check out the links in the description down below for all the social media platforms so you can find out more about anime, manga, and everything else that we're watching, as well as when the next episode goes live. keep watching. Final words from Susu Day?
It's muggy as hell. Stay hydrated.
Correct. Always stay hydrated. Very important. Either way, it is a sign out from me.
Sign up from me.
Sign out from him.
Yeah!